If brands understood this one thing, their entire year would change. I recently got advice from one of the best YouTube strategists in the country. It blew my mind. We actually recently just sat down with this awesome YouTube strategist, and we had him review this show right here. By the way, the hook you just saw was something that he talked about. And so we're going to be evolving things as we go. But right after we had this like 90-minute long session, me and Brittany, I literally just started typing away. I had a whole list of things that went off to Brittany. Brittany had her whole notes as well. And we combined those things. And somewhere along the way in discussions over what topics we want to do over the past few months, one of them was, hey, why don't we just share that list and kind of talk about the thinking? Because we're doing this. I mean, we are practitioners of all the things that we're sharing. Like, as we learn, we want to be like a funnel, just giving it right back out so you guys can learn and you can help your brand. So today, a lot about YouTube, but I think there's a lot of principles, core principles in here that still fully apply with a lot of platforms and a lot of channels. Cool? Let's just jump right in. So you want to know how raw this is? I mean, I can literally read the text. Not sure where to put this, so leaving it here. My takeaways from our chat. This needs to live in an SOP somewhere. Like, this is literally like the text chat between me and Britt. So the first one here, our target audience is social pros working at large brands. This should be reflective in almost every title. If you go through and look at some of our titles now that Marma will pop up, you're going to see they talk about brand professionals, marketers, social pros. Like, we're talking directly to the audience. Before we made some of these changes, it was a bit more general. And we're going to talk about a tip here in the middle of this topic that was the biggest learning for me, and it influenced even the titles. What's funny as we talk about this list is you're going to come through this, and part of this is you're going to say what we said, which was like, we know a lot of these things. Why aren't we doing these things? Sometimes you need someone to say it back to you, so consider that me now. But sometimes it's just hard to be great at this. And there's such a high standard that you can get to. And a lot of times in brands, you got to create a lot of headlines, a lot of topics, a lot of descriptions, or a lot of social posts, and you could just get lazy. And I don't think we're lazy. We're constantly trying to get better. But I loved going out and having this conversation with him, and he butchered our titles. But it wasn't necessarily just our titles. We'll talk about titles. It was really about your audience. He talked about kind of this like sub niche. Do you super know who you're talking to? Do you super know their challenges? Are you creating content that's directly tied to those challenges? And the truth of the matter is no. Like, no, we weren't. We were coming up with like cool ideas or stories from my past or things we think would be fun. You remember the chicken video that's right here. Again, fun one to produce, and I think people liked it, but was it super valuable? Because for this niche, for us, for social pros, they come to YouTube, they come to podcasts to be educated. And so that's another thing that he talked about was you guys have got to create more high educational content. There's so much that we know and so much that we do and so much that we give clients. And then we would come in here and we just weren't giving it all away like we think we can, because sometimes, and this is where content strategists can talk to themselves, educational can feel boring. Educational can feel boring, but man, that sounds like a preacher. You see the repeat? That was like my dad, the preacher. But the thing that's interesting about this is why do social professionals go to conferences? Why do social professionals listen to podcasts? Why do I call up a guy that worked at Marriott to try to learn from him? It's all because I'm looking, I'm thirsty, I'm starving for education, because they want to take that knowledge and they want to help them in their career, help their team, help their brand. And so we had to refocus around our audience and around educational content. The second one here, we better topic selection for our audience profile. What do social media managers care about? What do social media managers want to see more of? Like, that is the whole game. It's all about the idea. Creators do this so well. They spend so much time brainstorming. They spend so much time thinking about concepts and ideas. And so me and Brittany were already thinking about how do we have a meeting where we literally list out 100 ideas, 100 challenges that social media professionals have, and let's talk to a lot of those. We're already changing the format of this. This podcast itself came from thinking about what is something that could really help a brand that is struggling with YouTube or struggling with making their content so good. This idea of focusing on the persona and getting really specific about their challenges, their wants, and their desire, it was lacking. It is lacking, and we're in that transition ourselves. And so we've got some stuff that we're working on. We talked about educational content. This one says, we need more educational content. These people want to learn and grow to be better at their jobs. We will grow. This channel will grow by teaching. And as we talked about, that can sometimes feel boring, and you want to make content different and make it entertaining, but sometimes that's not what your audience wants. So all of this stuff depends on your audience, your customer, whoever you're trying to build a network with. Oh, this is a big one. We can still do our version of this, conversational, authentic, off the cuff, but quick, punchy, and highly valuable. Man, we talked a lot about the hook. We talked a lot about the first 5 seconds, and we have a whole format now that we're trying to do. And to be honest, like, I still struggle with it because I'm the one that wants this show to feel different, to not feel so hooky, to not feel so this and that. But the platforms need what the platforms need. And so I've stuck myself in this like creative conundrum between who I am and what I want to do and how I want to show up creatively and what the platforms need and how they're going to optimize and how they learn about the content. So know that as you're in that, I'm in that, we're in that, but you can't ignore what the platforms need. The one caveat I will give, because like when this first happened, like the next day we shot, I didn't really like those episodes, to be honest. The next time we shot was a lot better because I feel like I got back into being myself and a little bit more comfortable. I do think you've still got to be yourself. So I don't think we need to take the best practices of the channel today and completely conform to what everybody else is doing and push aside your creativity. I felt that in that moment whenever I was getting this feedback and we shot the next day. The next time we shot, I thought it was a lot better because I feel like I got back into being a little bit more who I wanted to be. And so there is, though, this creative conflict that you've got to figure out between what the channels need and what the platforms need and what you're creating, how you want to show up, whether it's you personally or a podcast or a brand. And those have to match, but you can't ignore one of them. And that just takes time. It just takes time and conversation, time in front of the camera. And so that's another one I would just point out is this idea of how are you trying to show up authentically, but also give the platforms what they need to perform. Packaging. People in YouTube talk about packaging. It's like the number one thing. When they talk about packaging, they talk about title, they talk about thumbnail, they talk about description, and it all comes from the idea, right? It all comes from the idea. But how are you packaging up? And man, he just ripped our thumbnails apart. What's funny is our thumbnails, I've had people compliment our thumbnails, how good they are. But I think people are looking at it from a design aesthetic, and they are good. They're really good from a design aesthetic. What about from a performance aesthetic, right? Like that's what it really is about, is are these thumbnails making people click? And so one of the things he talked about was the title itself, not mirroring the thumbnail, but supporting each other in the thumbnail. And that's hard. Brittany's over here in the corner and she's going, that's right. We still struggle about it as we try to debate, what is it this or is it that? I mean, before, literally at the top of this run sheet now, this is new, I've got a title, I've got a thumbnail text and a description of what the thumbnail can be. We're literally adding some things in here of what this should look like. Brittany's got a whole list of hooks written for the 3 episodes that we're creating today. So this one's super behind the scenes, guys. I hope people are enjoying this. This is literally like live in the moment. So packaging, so important. We need time to do this well. Again, we talked about the idea side of things, but how often have you put in this is simple, but like people just don't do it. Put in who your customer is into your mind or into a search or into an AI platform and said, list out the top 20 challenges, the top 100 challenges, and then brainstorm 100 ideas to solve those challenges. This is what they need help with. We oftentimes go off and brainstorm original ideas, different ideas. We're looking at what other people are creating and brainstorming off of that. One of the things today, it's so simple. Who are you talking to? What are they struggling with? And what value could you provide? Come up with 100 ideas and then get that 100 down to the best 5 and then go make those 5 things. It's so funny how this isn't rocket science, but you just have to be reminded so much. Stick with me. I promise this list is getting long, but there's one coming about platform, algorithm, and content that tied all this together that just blew my mind. First 5 seconds need to pay off. First 30 seconds, you've got to get to the content. So we all know about the hook. And my podcast before this feedback was just Eric. Hey, welcome, episode 25. I was talking about the team, what's going on in life, and I was treating it like a radio show. I used to do radio, and I loved it. It felt so comfortable. And the team was like, nope, got to cut that. Nope, got to cut that. And it changed everything that we're doing. Now we have a hook. Now we have a credibility marker. Now we've got a little bit of a setup, and we get to the content a lot faster. That's one thing that I preach all the time is don't bury the lead. And then we would get in here and sometimes I'd bury the lead because I just want to have a fun conversational radio show. And so that was really good feedback for me. Probably things my team had already told me and I just needed to hear it from someone else. This was a really good one. I mentioned credibility earlier. If you're starting something new, especially if this is a thought leader or, maybe brand might be not the same, but as you're starting something new, you've got to think about why do they care about you? And so the thing he told me was like, you've got a great story, Eric, worked for great brands, but people don't know you that are still discovering you. So how can you include some sort of credibility? Built social for 15 years, worked in Fortune 500 brands, just a little tiny nugget right at the beginning that creates that credibility and makes them want to stick through. That was a really good one, and one that we think about a lot. These were a couple principles that I thought he shared that I thought was so good. When you start to wrap up all these things that we're talking about, one thing I told my team and me and Brittany talked about is, if this could be a talk at a social media conference, then record it. If it couldn't be, then why are we doing it? Because you can just go on a tangent on ideas, but if you could literally copy and paste this and bring this to social media marketing world, to inbound, to content marketing world, any of these really big, social media or content marketing conferences, then great. If not, then you are not thinking like an editorial thinker and how you should program your platforms and program your channels. That was a really good one. Another one was, and again, this is not a surprise, but it's easier to keep people in the second half of the video if you kept them in the first half of the video. So what are you doing with that hook? What are you doing to get to the content quickly? Those are so good principles. All right, so I teased this. So I want to get into this one because this was the one that really blew my mind and started to change a lot of how I think about YouTube as a platform. And it sent me down, by the way, a rabbit hole of research. Everybody in the room is on needles and threads right now, as you are, because they want to know this. He talked about how every time you post a piece of content, you are training YouTube what audience to go find for you. So it's an algorithm, right? And those pieces of content are being sent out to 10 people, 20 people, 100 people as a test. And whether they engage or don't engage is going to tell YouTube if this is good content or not. But everything you're doing is doing that thing. Your title, your open, your description, your content, who's seeing it, how long they're watching. All of this stuff is teaching YouTube how to find your audience. So how important is titles and thumbnails? Super important. How important is calling out social pros for us, marketers, or if it's for you, if is it moms, is it shoppers, is it household, if it's dad, it's the grill master, it's whatever the thing is, you are training YouTube and your channel to go find your audience. And if you are on a tangent every single time, YouTube has no idea who to go find. And guess what? You never grow. You never reach new audiences. And I was just like, I don't know. It was a bit of a moment in time that my mind was a bit blown. And I'm not saying this is rocket science or it's not things I didn't kind of get, but just the way he worded that, every single day you're teaching YouTube how to find your audience. It really did change how specific we've got to be to YouTube to tell it who we're looking for with our content. It was so good. And it'll change everything forever. Let's close this out because there's a lot here. Here's the one challenge I'd give you. Are you really talking to your audience? Do you really know your audience? Are you spending enough time coming up with the best ideas, the best creative ideas, and training YouTube to find your audience? Are you packaging your content well that makes it very discoverable? Here is the close. This is not a one-stop fix or hack. It's still going to take time to drive subscribers, to drive growth in this platform. I know we're in the middle of it right now, but this type of intentionality with channels is so important. It's actually why I talk about when you've got channel teams, they will grow because they get this level of detail. So if you put this level of detail on top of Instagram, this level of detail on top of TikTok, man, you would grow. So today's all about YouTube. And so I hope this was helpful. It blew our minds, and hopefully it's helping make this content better every single day. So with that, I got to wrap up quickly. So we're teaching the algorithm to keep our retention high. So appreciate it. We'll see you.